Hi friends, and thanks so much for being here. I'm Anna Helman. Now, Valentine's Day is coming up, so it's time to get our cards and handmade treats ready, right? Now, I am not naturally drawn to putting hearts on my projects very often. So I thought for this tutorial, I would share lots of different ways to use hearts. So if you have heart stamps, if you have heart punches, lots of different ways to use hearts on cards. Now, even though this isn't something I normally do and I'm normally drawn to, after I've created these cards and came up with these techniques I want to share with you, I'm in love with them, and I think you may really enjoy seeing them as well. So let's take a look. For these cards, I'm going to be using the Country Bouquet stamp and punch set, which is, I really like it because it's a little bit different heart. It's a little bit asymmetrical, a little bit more casual. But then I'm also throwing in some stamps from this Love for You stamp set. So I wanted to show those with you. Now first, I'm going to show you some cards I've already prepared along with some ideas for how to use hearts on your projects. And then I'm going to do a little bit of stamping and show you a few more ways that you can use hearts as well. So my first idea for how you can use hearts is to layer them. Now, oftentimes we have different sizes of hearts and they're really fun to layer. The way I did this was I actually stamped. I just love that this stamp set has this two-step stamp here to stamp once with a color for some flowers and then once with another color for the leaves. And so I used that as the background, and then I punched my heart out of vellum so that you could still see through and see some of that color underneath for the layering and for that added interest. I didn't want to cover up that beautiful flower in the background, so I used the vellum. I actually created quite a few of these here recently. If you placed an order from me last month, this was the thank you you received, and I want to show you how I line these up on my Stamparatus. So this is my absolute favorite stamping tool, and I use it all the time. And since I was creating quite a few of these, it was perfect to line it up on here. Now, it doesn't line up perfectly because I have mounted my front piece to my card base, but it's pretty close here, you can see. So I lined up the Just Wanted to Say and the flower stamp on this side, and then I placed the leaf stamp right on top of there, got it in the place I wanted it. Once it was laying here where I wanted it, lowered this and picked that up. So now I have stamps on both sides of my plate. I did my stamping with this side, all of those, and then I lifted that out and was able to do this. And I made a few more later, so it was nice they were still in the same spot. But I just love tips like that for how to make group cards when you're making quite a few, how to make it simpler and make it go a little bit faster and easier. So here is one, layer those hearts. The second one, I think we'll move through these others a little faster. I really like how this one turned out. So for this one is to use those hearts as flower petals. So depending on the hearts that you're using, I was able to fit 5 for this flower for the larger petals. Sometimes it might be 4, maybe it's going to be 5 or 6, however you want to layer them. And then I actually use these smaller ones for the center. I want to show you how I punched this out, because these were so quick and easy to create because I used the coordinating designer paper. This is called Country Floral Lane. It's all part of a product suite. You can get all of this together or individual pieces and parts. So this designer paper lines up with the punch, which is fantastic. It saves so much time. I punched several of these out and I was able to create this pretty quickly and easily. Now you can see in the background, I use that same heart that I used to stamp the large heart here. I use that here as a decoration on the corner. So I don't really know that you might be able to tell this one's a heart if you were thinking about it, but not necessarily. And yeah, I use the small hearts that I punched out for the center. And do you want to know a fun fact? Do you ever get smudges on your cards? Oh, it's the worst, right? So I got a blue fingerprint right over here, a little smudge. And I thought, well, that's not a very good spot for a smudge. What am I going to do right there? So I put 2 sequins close together because it took 2 of them to cover up my smudge. And then I put a little third one there. It looks like they're totally on purpose, right? You know my secret. Okay, so that's my second idea. Take your hearts, turn them into flowers. My third idea, and this is something I have done over and over again, and I'm not sure it will ever get old for me, is to take those hearts and alternate them right side up, upside down, right side up, upside down, because they fit together so nicely, and I just think they look really nice when you do this. Now, if you like this technique, I'm going to show something else here when I do some stamping in a few minutes that will be very similar to this. It's going to be more of a border, but this would be super cute scrapbook page border. As you can see, it looks really nice on a card, but lots of ways you can use those alternating hearts. My fourth idea for how to use some of those hearts is to use them as corner decorations. That because of the shape of it, it fits nicely into a corner. So I stamped these right side up. These I stamped upside down so that they fit into that top corner. Here I used that other stamp set, the Love for You, and this I'm a huge fan of this big stamp that says so much love. So that is most of the interest for the card. I just added a little bit of this pretty designer paper, a couple of those little punches I had punched out from the designer paper when I created my flower, and stamped those in the corner. This came together really quickly. Now I have one more that I created that you could probably do this with other sets, but it works really well with this particular set, is turning that heart into a flower. And because when I punched out these pieces, I had the leaves as well. You get the big heart, the small heart, and the leaves. I had these leaves, and I've done this several times. I made a lot of treat hoarders here not too long ago and put the heart on with one leaf. For this one, I used the 3 little leaves. I think it's just a really pretty little heart flower. If you want to, you can actually add a stem if you have a stamp that would be long and skinny, or you could draw one with a marker, add a stem, and then put the leaves down there on the stem, and this can be the flower at the top as well. So that's pretty fun. You see this shimmer paper? This is my favorite new paper. I will have links to all these products down below if you want to take a look at any of them. And I embossed, can you tell what this embossing is? I embossed a piece of vellum. I think that's really fun. You can't really see through it on this one. You can see the color a little bit, but it's really fun to emboss vellum and then put it over designer paper because you can see a little bit of it through still. Okay, now let's do a little bit of stamping. I want to show you a few other ways you can use hearts. Now you can use these ideas you can use them with stamps, which is how I'm going to be using them, or you can use your punches in the exact same way. So this is the idea that I mentioned a little bit ago. I wanted to show you a similar idea to my alternating hearts. And this one is to stamp it and to use it as a border. Now you can see here, this stamp actually comes with the large one and the small one attached. Now, if you happen to get the set and you don't like that, you can absolutely cut them apart. But before you do that, realize that the reason they're made this way is so you can stamp both of them at one time and punch both of them at one time because they are lined up correctly. So if you only want to stamp one on your card, you can do exactly what I'm doing right here, is just ink it up at the edge, make sure the other heart doesn't get any ink on it, and stamp as you would any other time. Okay, so you can do one border. Sometimes I like to do a border at the top and the bottom that will match. So that's one idea for how to use those hearts. You could punch those out and pop some of them up. That would be really cute. Now let's do another idea let's do one with the larger heart. And this is just a design idea. I'm not sure looks like anything in particular when I get done, but I think it's a really neat design that you could use for backgrounds. So what I'm doing for this one is I'm going to stamp once, and you can re-ink if you want to at this point, but just for a fun effect, I'm not going to. I'm actually going to stamp a second time here without re-inking. Now I am going to stamp once here and once here. And once, I want to get my darks and my lights alternating, so this time I have to stamp on this side first with my dark ink and then fill in here. And you get a fun circular pattern, so it looks a little bit like a pinwheel. In my mind, I thought I was going to be creating a wreath. Didn't really turn out that way, but it's a fun pattern that you could use as backgrounds. You could turn it into a pinwheel or use it in other ways as well. Okay, let's look at another one. Let's look at another way to use this large heart. I love this, and this is a great idea for another special occasion coming up, not too long. So I'm using some soft succulent ink this time. And imagine that your piece of paper is divided into quadrants. So there's a line down the center and a line horizontally here. I want to stamp this as if this is fitting into one of the quadrants. Hopefully that made a little bit of sense. I'm going to stamp this one going over into the top right quadrant. Stamp this one into what was the bottom right quadrant, and this one over here. And what do we end up with? We end up with a 4-leaf clover. Now, if you want to, you can overlap them a little bit more and bring them a little bit closer together. You can play around with this, but I think this is a really fun technique. And then if you want to, if you have a long skinny stamp, you can add it, or you can just draw a stem onto it with a marker. So that's another idea. And this isn't exactly a technique, but I wanted to show you just a super simple card idea using this Love For You stamp set. Again, as mentioned, I am really excited about it. I love that it's big and bold, and when you use this on a project, you don't really need to do much else. So I am going to stamp this heart once, going to stamp it, and because my ink is very, very light, that didn't show up, I'm going to re-ink and stamp again. So we have 2 hearts there in the background. I just added the mat around my white cardstock here for a little bit of interest. And I am going to add a few sequins. And this is just a really quick and simple card idea that you could make one of, or you can make quite a few if you're looking for some card ideas. So those are my ideas for today. Let's bring those back in. We can look at them one more time, but thanks so much for watching along. I hope this gives you some ideas either for some Valentine's Day cards or wedding or any other occasion. We can, of course, use hearts anytime throughout the year. So take a look at product links in the video description below if you're interested. If you're new here, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel. Have a blessed day, and I hope you'll be back again next time when I'll be here helping you to hand make with love.